Hello, dear students. Myself, Gaganpreet Kaur, your subject teacher for economics. Your today's chapter is Government Budget and the Economy. In this chapter, we will study about the concept of the government budget, objectives of the government budget, structure of the budget, budget receipts like revenue receipts, capital receipts, budget expenditure, budget deficit. So let's start with the chapter with the meaning of the government budget. So as we all know that on 1st February, it is a well-known date in India when the Finance Minister of India presents the annual budget of the government for its approval by the Parliament. So this budget unfolds two things. The first one is the financial performance of the government over the past 1 year, or I can say what was the financial performance of the government in the previous year, means past 1 year. Secondly, it also unfolds about the financial programs and the policies of the government for the next 1 year. The budget also tells about the financial programs of the government to be performed in the coming year. So everyone knows that what budget is. We prepare in our home also. It is a planned way for the expenditures to be incurred in a certain period. So, if we talk about the government budget, what it means? The government budget means annual statement showing item-wise estimates of the receipts and the expenditures during the fiscal year. So, here we were all talking about the government receipt and government expenditure to be incurred in a financial year. As we all know, the financial year starts from 1st April and ends on the 31st March. So, budget, or I can say it is an estimate of the receipts which might be received and the expenditure which might be incurred. It can never be prepared on the actual basis, so it is not actual budget, but it is regarded as estimated budget. So this was the concept. Now let's talk about the objectives of the government budget. What are the objectives of the government budget? So the first one objective for preparing this government budget is GDP growth. GDP growth is the central objective of the government budgetary policy. It is achieved in two ways. Let's talk about it. GDP growth rate is what? GDP growth rate measures how fast the economy is growing. It measures the economic output of a nation. So how it can be measured? In two ways. Number one, by making public investment expenditure. Now what is public investment expenditure? Public investment expenditure means that the government is spending the revenue which it has collected for the public. And the second way is by inducing private investment expenditure. What it means now, private investment expenditure? It means capital contributed by the private sector and not by the government. Government offers them tax rebates and subsidies to induce their funds in a particular project. So this is how GDP growth is achieved. Second objective of the government budget is allocation of the resources. private enterprises will always desire to allocate resources to those areas of production where profits are high. But every product which is profitable is not necessarily good for the people. For example, alcohol, cigarette, tobacco, etc. As we can see here, that the government of a country through a budgetary policy directs the allocation of resources in a manner such that there is a balance between the goals of the profit maximization and social welfare, so that both can be achieved. The goals, here are two goals of the government, that profit maximization and social welfare. So government wants to allocate the resources in that balanced way so that these two goals can be achieved. The one is profit maximization and the second one is social welfare. Let's take an example for this. For example, to discourage the production of the goods which are injurious to the health of the people, the government can levy, or I can say impose, high rate of taxes. Then it will lead to increase in the revenue of the government on one hand, because government will earn high rate of taxes, so it will increase the revenue of the government, and the decrease in the demand for such injurious products on the other hand, because the products will be costly. On the other hand, socially we can say socially useful goods, because the government other objective is social welfare. So on the other hand, socially useful goods like khadi and I can say handlooms, government impose less or no taxes on these goods. Why? Because government wants to increase the sale of these goods. So this is how social welfare is also achieved by the government. So this is how government allocate the resources in the government budget. The third point here is provision of public goods. Supply and demand forces in a market economy do not allow enough production of the public goods. These are those goods which satisfy collective needs of the people. Now let's talk about this. Like the private sector may not be much interested and may not be even licensed to prepare or to produce the public goods due to low profitability. Also the goods like arms and ammunition which are licensed only to the government factories. So these goods are given budgetary allocation of the funds so that they can be made in sufficient numbers. Like you may have heard of defense budget, and earlier there was also a rail budget. So it is through the budgetary allocation of the funds that these goods are sufficiently provided to the people. The fourth objective of the government budget here is the government budget is that is redistribution of income and wealth. In India, there are the richest people of the world and also those who do not have money even to get food for them. So the government impose taxes on the rich people and use it for the benefit of the poor to give them food and shelter, etc. So what this objective says that this objective states the equitable distribution of the income and the wealth. The equitable distribution of income and the wealth is a sign of social justice, which is the principal objective of any welfare state as in India. The government also provide food grains to the below poverty line people, that is known as BPL, below poverty line population, at a very subsidized rate. For example, the Atta Dal scheme provided by the Punjab government, in which the wheat is provided for rupees 2 per kg and dal is provided at rupees 20 per kg. So this helps in reducing inequalities of the income and the wealth, and also signifies the equitable distribution of income and wealth by the government. The next objective here is balanced regional growth. The budgetary policy places priority on the development of the backward regions in the country. How? The government collects high taxes from the richer states or cities and use them for the development of the backward regions, where there are no industries or very few industries. Government also provides tax holidays in such zones, also known as special economic zones. The next point is employment opportunities. The budgetary policy focuses on the generation of employment opportunities through investment in the public enterprises. Because the government tries to generate employment opportunity by investment in the public enterprises through a scheme known as MGNREGA. The full form of this is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. The full form of this scheme is MGNREGA. MGNREGA is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Government tries to provide job opportunity for the poor. Seventh point here is economic stability. Economic stability. Like free play of the market forces are bound to generate trade cycles, also called business cycles. So like currently, we are facing a lockdown from the past 2 months, due to which there is a recession in the economy, right? So, to revive the economy and to set it moving, the government has decided to increase rupees 20 lakh crore budget so that the economy can overcome this phase early. By doing it, the government tries to achieve the state of economic stability. Why government is doing this? By doing this, the government tries to achieve the state of economic stability in the country. This economic stability stimulates the inducement to invest and increase the rate of growth and development of the country. So these were the objectives of the government budget. Now let's talk about the structure of the budget or the components of the budget. Here are the structure of the budget refers to the component of the budget. Two broad components of the government budget are: the very first one is budget receipts, including revenue and capital receipt. The second one is budget expenditure. So what is the structure, or I can say component of the budget? It is divided into two parts. One is the receipt, other one is the expenditure. Receipt can be revenue receipts and capital receipts, and expenditure can also be revenue expenditure and the capital expenditure. Now let's discuss these. Firstly, receipt. Receipt means receiving something. The government receipt, budget receipt I can say. So what do you mean by receipt? Receipt means receiving something. Receiving something, so that government, we can say that government is receiving something, that is budget receipt. So talking about the budget receipt, the first one is, it is categorized into two categories: revenue receipts and the capital receipts. So let's talk about the revenue receipt first. So revenue receipts are those money receipts of the government which show the following two characteristics. So here are two characteristics of this kind of revenue receipt. The first one is these receipts do not create any corresponding liability for the government. This can be understood with the help of example like tax receipts. Tax is what? Tax is a revenue receipt for the government because taxes collected by the government are compulsory payment which is received by the government. Now, nobody who has paid tax can compel government to do any work only because he has paid taxes. Like, if you pay tax, you cannot compel the government to build a road near your house or to do any other development project which is beneficial to you only. It is a unilateral payment. As you can see here, tax is a unilateral, or unilateral mean is one-sided payment, which is a compulsory payment to the government. The second one is these receipts do not cause any reduction in the assets of the government. We are talking about revenue receipts, like which receipts can be regarded as revenue receipts. The first one we did, that these receipts do not create any corresponding liability for the government. Obviously, if the government has received tax, the government is not bound to do any kind of development only for you. The second is these receipts do not cause any reduction in the assets of the government. For example, I'll take example of like BSNL. Here it is like BSNL, we all know it is a telecommunication network. BSNL is a PSU, like public sector undertaking. If the government sells its shares, it will be an income for the government. If the government sells the shares of the BSNL because it is a PSU, then it will be income for the government. But simultaneously, it will reduce an asset of the government. Hence, it cannot be treated as the revenue receipts. So, only those receipts which have not constituted in the reduction in assets of the government are regarded as revenue receipts. Now we will study about that what these revenue receipts are. Constituents of revenue receipts, or it is divided into two parts, that is tax receipts and non-tax receipts. So starting with the tax receipts. So what is a tax receipt? A tax is a compulsory payment to the government by the household, by the firms or other institutional units. So type of taxes here. Here are the taxes can be classified as in three categories. One is progressive and regressive taxes. Secondly, value added and specific taxes. And third one is direct and indirect tax. So let's start with the first one, progressive tax. What is a progressive tax? A tax is said to be progressive when the rate of tax increases with an increase in the income. Let's take an example for this. Supposingly a person is earning income which is less than rupees 5 lakh. So the tax rate on his income will be supposingly 10%. And other person who is earning income which is more than rupees 5 lakh has to pay tax at the rate of 20 or 30% on his income. Thus, this is how the poor, like the person who is earning less income, is charged less tax, means low rate of tax, and the rich who is earning higher income is charged the higher rate of tax. This is known as progressive tax. And what is regressive tax? A tax is said to be regressive when it causes a greater real burden on the poor than rich. Means, with the help of example, you can even understand it like it is completely opposite to progressive tax. For example, I'll take example of GST. GST, we all know that in India, the GST, the tax rate are same for the poor and for the rich. For example, if a poor or rich man goes to purchase a fan or a pen, I can say, both have to pay the same rate of tax. This tax does not discriminate between the rich and the poor. This means the poor is at disadvantage. You can also take another example, like when you go to purchase a pen. Supposingly, the pen you like costing to you is rupees 50. So the person who is a rich person, the same person will buy the pen at 50, and the person who is poor, the cost will remain same to the poor also. So this is how the regressive tax does not discriminate between the rich and the poor and is called regressive tax. The second category of taxes type of is that is VAT, that known as value added tax and specific tax. So what is VAT? VAT is an indirect tax which is imposed on the value added at various stages of the production. Let's understand this with the help of an example. VAT. Supposingly, you are from cotton, we make thread. So, what is done? A value addition is done in cotton by making a thread. So, tax is charged on value addition like VAT. Then, now next step is supposingly, then thread is converted into fabric. Again, value addition is done and again tax is charged. So, we can conclude that VAT is the difference between the value of the output and the value of the intermediate consumption, because VAT is charged on every value addition done on anything. Although now this VAT has been abolished, because we all know the GST has come. This is one tax, one nation. So all these taxes have been abolished and has been converted into one tax, that is known as GST. Now what is specific tax? When a tax is levied on a commodity on the basis of units or sizes or on the basis of weight, it is called the specific tax. Example of specific tax may be like cigarette, right? Cigarette is tax on the cigarette is charged on the basis of its length. So this is known as specific tax. Third is direct and indirect taxes. So what is direct tax? Direct tax is the one in which the final burden is borne by the person on whom it is imposed. I'll give you a simple example. Supposingly, if you earn income, like supposingly if you do a job and you are a salaried person, you get salary every month. So if you earn income, like if you are getting salary, then only you are liable to pay the tax on your salary. The burden of paying the tax lies on the person who earns it. Examples of direct taxes are income tax, wealth tax, gift tax. Although these wealth tax have been abolished, gift tax has been abolished, only income tax is there now as a direct tax. Means tax is levied on the person who has earned the income. The burden cannot be shifted, burden of paying the tax cannot be shifted on any other person. On the other hand, if we talk about indirect tax. So what is indirect tax? An indirect tax is the one whose initial burden or impact is on one person, but he succeeds in shifting the burden. He succeeds in shifting the burden of tax to the another persons. GST is an important example. Let's understand this indirect tax with the help of an example. Supposingly, if you purchase a soap from the market, soap, we all know soap, you can see on the packaging of the soap that it is written as MRP in bracket inclusive of all the taxes. So it means that manufacturer of the soap is getting the tax from your pocket. So it is that tax in which the liability to pay the tax can be shifted to the ultimate consumer. Although the liability to pay the tax is of the manufacturer, or I can say is of the producer, but who paid the tax? The ultimate consumer. So this is the indirect tax. So this is it for today, beta. In this video, we'll study the leftover topic in the next video. Thank you.